All right, Felicia, are you there?
I'm here.
Let me listen to you. Great. All right. Today, we are going to take a look at some of the charts that we didn't finish looking at last week to review some of the principles that we learned. And then we're going to take a look at some material that has to do with career and vocation and how to use a chart when it comes to discovering career and vocation.
那么今天呢，我们先讲一下上一节课我们还没有一些图，我们先回顾复习一下，回顾一下我们学到的这些技巧，然后呢，我们再去看一看关于职业和我们职业发展的这样的星图，这个主题。
Now, when it comes to Marilyn Monroe's chart, there are a lot of things that grab your attention when you look at this chart.
当我们看玛丽莲梦露的星图的时候呢，有很多这个星图上的元素都会吸引我们的注意。
Why don't we take a look, and this is a good way to learn how to use these rulerships or associations. Let's take a look at the 12th house here a little bit.
那么这是一个很好的方式，让我们去学会守护星或者是星图关联的这个技法。让我们看一下12宫吧。
We have the sign Cancer on the 12th house cusp.
在12宫宫头是巨蟹座。
Now, think about this. This is to stimulate your awareness of how astrology works. The sign Leo is on the ascendant, and almost all Leo rising people will have Cancer, the sign Cancer, on the 12th house.
那么这个玛丽莲梦露的上升是狮子座，那所有上升狮子座的人呢，基本上他们12宫宫头都在巨蟹座，这是一个很好的刺激你们就是说思索的一个方式。
Mm-hmm. So what does this tell us? In a general sense, you know, we think of Leo as dramatic and a show-off, outgoing, an actor or actress.
那么这告诉我们什么呢？一般情况下，我们都会觉得狮子座是非常的喜欢炫耀、外向，是那种演员。男演员、女演员。
But the 12th house is often what we are the most sensitive about.
但是12宫常常是我们最敏感的那个领域。
It's often what we will try to, in the negative sense sometimes, of course, we will try to hide this from the world, or we will seek seclusion and want to get away from the everyday world.
那么常常，这是我们希望从世界中躲开的一个领域。我们希望我们逃避，到这里。
The 6th house.
Go ahead. I haven't finished the translation yet. You say it's a place that we try to hide from the world.
Try to get away. I would say try to get away from the everyday world.
就说
You know what I mean by everyday world? Yeah.
是我们从就日常生活中逃开的一个方式。
You can think of the everyday world as being the 6th house, the world of schedule, routine, work.
你可以把那个我们每天的这种日常生活想象成是第6宫，我们的工作，我们的日常的这种作息，我们的时间表。
Mm-hmm. But the 12th house is a very interesting place. It is what each of us is the most sensitive about. It's where we both feel a need to escape the world, but want to somehow connect with the world almost in a behind the scenes way, in an unconscious way, or in a less conscious way. Say this and then I'll explain what I mean.
OK， 那么我们一方面我们想从12宫是我们想从日常的这个生活中逃离，同时我们又用一种无意识状态或者一种不为人所知的状态与世界连接的一个地方。
Now, what I'm really saying is that in the 12th house is where we feel our spiritual connection with everyone.
那么12宫实际上是我们感觉到我们和每一个人，我们和世界上每一个人的这种灵性的连接。
It can be the place where we feel what we all feel from time to time when we feel overwhelmed by life.
那也是一个时不时的我们感觉到被生活淹没的、被生活压垮的一个领域。
I could probably teach a workshop just on the 12th house.
我们就12宫而言，我们也可以讲一个工作坊。
But here we see something very interesting. We see the North Node in Cancer in the 12th, and Pluto in Cancer conjunct the 12th house cusp.
那么，但在这张星图上，我们看到一个非常有趣的，我们看到北焦点在12宫宫头，北焦点在12宫，而冥王星也合向12宫宫头。
Now, on one hand, this means someone who has a need to come to terms with life emotionally. They're seeking for a way to express their feelings, to express their emotions, even though they may feel somewhat overwhelmed by their emotions.
一方面，这说明这个人在寻求一个，去用情感来释放他们的情感，seeking connection with the world, emotional connection, right, with the world.
Yes.
用情感跟整个世界连接在一起的方法。另外一方面呢，他们就觉得时不时的被情感所压垮。
Now, on the surface, you could look at this chart and you could say, oh, this is Marilyn Monroe. She was an actress. She was real famous in America back in the 1950s and 60s. And of course she's an actress. She's got Leo rising. You could say that.
那么在表面上，你可能说，哦，这是玛丽莲梦露，她是个演员，她是50、60年代非常有名的这个演员。
And when you look a little deeper, you see more than that.
当然是这样了，因为她的上升是狮子座。那么，但是如果是你更深入的去看这个星图的话，你会看到更多的东西。你看到的
If we look at the moon, if we look at the moon, we can see some of the complexity of her life emotionally and how that impacted her whole life.
如果我们看月亮的话，我们就会看到她的情绪、她的情感的复杂性，还有这个复杂性如何影响了她整个的生活。
We see the moon in Aquarius, but look at how the moon is aspected.
我们看到月亮在水瓶座，但是你看看月亮有什么样的相位？
The moon is opposite Neptune, square Saturn, and in a very wide conjunction, very wide, over 7 degrees.
月亮对向了海王星，4分了土星，还和木星形成一个比较宽的合相。
And so we see that not only does she have the sign Cancer on the 12th house cusp, she has the moon, which is associated with Cancer, opposite Neptune.
所以我们看到它不仅仅这个12宫公头是巨蟹座，而且它的月亮
And she has the moon. And of course she has the moon square Saturn. Now, let's just, for the sake of time today, let me cut right to the point of this.
为了节省时间，我直截了当的就讲这个相位吧。
She had a very dysfunctional and difficult childhood.
她的童年是非常的紊乱的，而且非常不幸。
Her real father was not on the scene. She had a stepfather. She was molested by men and neglected by her mother.
那么她的亲生父亲不在，她有一个继父，然后呢，她被男人性骚扰，然后她母亲呢又忽视了她。
Now, because she was also very attractive, and she turned into a beautiful young girl very early, she had the appearance of someone that was very stunning. She had a dramatic look, very dramatic look.
她确实很有魅力，她很年轻的时候呢，就非常非常的漂亮，就很有魅力。她的上升狮子座让她看起来非常的充满光彩。
And at the same time, she had a need to somehow come to terms with all of the emotions that had not been dealt with. You know, she didn't go through any therapy when she was young. She didn't have any help. She didn't have any support. She had to do the best she could with the circumstances that she had.
她童年的时候呢，她也没有做过心理治疗，她也没有任何办法，去疏导她自己的情绪，所以说她只能是尽力而为，去处理她这些童年带来的这个情绪问题。
Now, I want you to notice something very important here. We know the moon is the associate body for the 12th house. It is the associate body for the North Node. And we know that Saturn is the associate body for the South Node in Capricorn. And here they are square each other.
另外，我希望大家注意到一个非常重要的配置。我们知道月亮是12宫公头，也是它北焦点的守护星，而土星呢是它南焦点的守护星。那个月亮成了4分相。
Okay. So here's the statement. I grew up with a dysfunctional mother in a dysfunctional environment that was very stressful.
所以说这个相位向我们诉说，我从小我的母亲她就是一个功能不健全的母亲，那我的生活的环境也是一个非常失常的这样的环境。
Now, whenever we are under stress, this is a big clue for all of you, so I want you to pay attention. Whenever we are under a lot of stress, we tend to fall back upon our south node.
当我们处于非常大的压力下的时候，我们常常就会回到我们的南焦点上，我们就去依赖我们的南焦点。
Because the south node is our habit. It is what we are used to doing. It's the most familiar to us, for better or worse.
因为南焦点就是我们的习惯，就是我们习惯去做的，不论好坏，我们都习惯这样去做。
And we see that the south node is in Capricorn in the 6th house. So what does she do to cope with the dysfunction of her life? She says, go ahead.
我们看到南焦点在6宫，在摩羯座，所以说他到底做了什么去应对他这种不正常的、非正常的生活呢
She says, I must get a job, I must work hard and be successful.
他说我必须得到一个工作，我必须努力工作，而且成功，而且获得
And I
成
can
功。
see, yes, and it's exactly right. Yes, yes, I'm giving 2 stars to He Tian Tian. Is that how you say it? He Tian Tian?
何甜甜。
He Tian Tian. He Tian Tian. You're getting 2 stars. That's right. Working hard. That's right. And the main career that she started working in since her appearance, and she does have the sun somewhat in the 10th, also conjunct the 11th, so we have a double meaning here. But she used her appearance as a way of getting work. She got work as a model. And she worked very hard as a model.
所以说呢，你看那上升的守护星太阳呢，它落在了10宫，也在11宫的宫头，它确实是非常勤奋的工作，他找到了一个模特的工作，他非常勤奋的工作。
She was born, of course, in Los Angeles, which is, where Hollywood is. And they had jobs for what were called pin-up models, which are basically girls that wear almost no clothing and will model for calendars and magazines and other publications.
那么他是出生在洛杉矶，所以说呢，他就找了一份封面女郎的这样的工作，就是他们基本上是裸体，然后呢，就是拍那种封面照啊、日历照啊等等。
So she used what she had to compete and work hard to create some kind of success.
所以说，他就利用自己所拥有的这些这些姿色去竞争，去努力的工作，获得他想去要的东西。
Mm-hmm. And yet she had done nothing to deal with the side effects emotionally on her in terms of her growing up years. So she went early into the workforce, very hardworking, very ambitious, but had not dealt at all with the emotions of her growing up life.
所以说呢，他早年就一头冲进了那个工作，然后呢，没有去处理他童年的这种情绪、情感问题。
Okay. And here's what happened. In the beginning of her career, she had a good reputation for being not only stunningly attractive, but very hardworking and very ambitious.
所以说呢，下面发生了就是这样的事情，在他的职业早期呢，他不仅是非常的艳丽，而且他也是因为他野心勃勃，而且又非常勤奋而知名。
In fact, as a lot of you may know, she created this whole image, Neptune, of Marilyn Monroe, which was not her real name.
实际上，大家也都知道，他自己创造了这个玛丽莲梦露的这个形象，这个实际上都不是他的真实姓名。
Her real name was Norma Jean.
他的真名其实是诺玛琼。
And a lot of you have heard the song by Elton John, of course, Goodbye, Norma Jean.
Elton John 曾经写过这个歌，就叫 Norma Jean。
And what happened is, as she became more and more successful, she began to behave in ways that were emotionally unstable, that were emotionally problematic. Let's put it that way, problematic.
那结果呢，当他越来越成功的时候呢，他的情绪越来越出现问题，他的情绪越来越不稳定。
In the film world, she became someone who was more complicated and difficult to work with, who became famous for a while in Hollywood for being late and not showing up on time, all the things that were opposite the way she had started.
那么结果呢，他就是变得越来越是一个难以共事的人了。在好莱坞，他也因为他老不守时，总是迟到等等，这个出问题。
Okay. And she had made a reputation for being able to play these parts that were in those days called playing the dumb blonde. You know, can you translate dumb blonde?
就是说，他也因为去扮演那些傻乎乎的金发女郎而知名。
And at one point, she actually left Hollywood, went to New York to study acting after she had already been successful in Hollywood.
当他在好莱坞获得了很大的成就以后，他曾经一度离开好莱坞去纽约学习表演。
She joined the Actors Studio, and in many ways that became therapy for her. Her first therapy really was the Actors, I believe, was really more the Actors Studio in New York.
他就参加了一个纽约的表演工作室。那么我认为那是他在表演工作室他的那个时间，实际上是他第一次以这种方式获得了治疗。
Because, in my opinion, what she was really looking for was a way to express all of these complicated emotions, this Moon, Neptune, Cancer in the 12th, looking for a way to somehow express all of these complicated emotions that she had
因为在我
to the
看来，
world.
实际上他是希望以某种方式向世界来表达出他这些非常复杂的这样的情感，用表演的方式。你看，就是北焦点在12宫，在巨蟹座，月亮又对冲了海王星，非常复杂的情感。
Okay. What I would like for you to do sometime is to go on which of the websites can people rent and watch old movies? They can go on Baidu, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Go on Baidu and watch an old film from 1963, 62, 61, somewhere in there, early 60s. Her last film called The Misfits.
Misfits.
M-I-S.
OK.
That's an F.
我想你们最好去看，我希望你们就在百度上搜索一下他最后一部电影叫 Misfits， 这个电影。
A misfit is someone who's considered doesn't fit in with the world, doesn't fit in, doesn't belong, doesn't fit in, is not sure where they fit. This is an Aquarius issue, by the way.
那么这样一个就是说，这个就是 misfit 这个意思，就是不适合这个世界，这个意思，就是说他是感觉到不适合他不适合这个世界，这也是一个月亮宝瓶座的这样一个问题，不合时宜的人。
I have seen this film over 20 times.
这部电影我看过20遍。
And I want you to sit there with her chart and watch this film.
我希望你们当看这个电影的时候，拿着他的星图。
Okay? Because in it, you will see where she is revealing such vulnerability emotionally to the world. It is amazing.
因为在这部电影里，他用一种不可思议的方式，展现了他的脆弱的情感。
And you can see so much when you see that. And of course, her personal life, was she retreated, increasingly retreated from the world, 12th house, and died of a drug overdose.
那么你在这部电影里你会看到，就是他的这个巨蟹座北焦点12宫，他越来越从世界逃离，就是越来越从世界隐居，然后最后死于吸毒，死于嗑药。
The negative side of the 12th house can be escapism in the negative sense.
所以说12宫的负面的意义就是这种逃离。
And this could have been an accidental drug overdose. We don't know. But nonetheless, it was a drug overdose. We have the 12th house, Cancer, the moon, opposite Neptune. So there's a potential for some problems in that area, problems with addiction, etc.
那么这个用药过度，这也是12宫的这个问题，而且特别是它的月亮又对分了海王星，毫无疑问是有这样的问题的。
Okay, now we could probably spend the whole morning or the whole evening for you, this whole evening, just on her chart, but we have a lot more material to cover today. But I wanted you to see how you could understand her 12th house by looking at the moon and the very striking aspects that are made to the moon.
那么你们可以就看看它的12宫和这个12宫宫头月亮形成的这些相位，就能够明白他生命的很多东西。
Okay. So have fun watching that film and looking at her chart. You will be amazed.
所以说，去找那部电影来看，然后再看他的星图，你们会非常惊讶的。
You'll see more than just an acting performance.
你
You
们
will
看到
see someone who is trying to connect with the world, and she shows her moon in Aquarius opposite Neptune so well, so well.
你们看到的不仅仅是一个人的表演，而是他希望用这样的方式和整个世界连接，就用这样流露他这样情绪的方式与世界连接。看到这个月亮水瓶座对冲海王星，在这个影片中。
And of course, there have been a lot of rumors about her, that she was actually killed by people that worked for Kennedy because she had had an affair with JFK, but no one has ever proven that. So these are just rumors, gossip. I mean, she did have an affair with JFK. We know that, but we don't know. It's never been proved that she was killed. Never been proved.
当然，关于他的死亡有很多的谣言，流言蜚语。有人说是他是被杀死的，因为他跟肯尼迪有这样的婚外情，但是这个从来没有被证实过。
Okay. Here we have an interesting chart. I want you to notice a couple of things. This is, of course, the chart of Paul McCartney.
那么这是
What I want you
披头士里面的 Paul McCartney 的星图。
You'll notice in an earlier chart we looked at, when we looked at Mozart, we saw someone with South Node in Pisces, okay? And we saw someone in the case of Mozart, the Sun and Neptune were opposite each other. Here the Sun and Neptune are angular, Sun is conjunct the midheaven. Neptune is conjunct the ascendant. South node in Pisces. We have another Sun Neptune with South node in Pisces. Great. One of the most talented songwriters of the 20th century. Maybe the most talented.
你们还记得我们以前看过莫扎特的星图？莫扎特是南焦点双鱼座，然后太阳和海王星对分相。那么这里面我看不到的 Paul McCartney， 他的星图也是南焦点双鱼座，他的太阳和海王星是4分相，而且太阳、海王星都在轴点位置。那么 Paul McCartney 是20世纪最伟大的词曲作家。
He's a very prolific songwriter, means he's written hundreds and hundreds of songs.
他是一个非常多产的词曲作家，他写过成百上千首的歌曲。
Lots of clever tunes. Look at all this Gemini up here.
他的很多的这种音符都特别的那种凌厉。
And he's a good performer. He's got Moon in Leo.
而且他是一个很棒的表演者，他的月亮在狮子座。
Got Mars in Leo. He's very good performer. He's still performing now in his 70s.
火星也在狮子座，他到现在他已经70多岁了，他还在表演。
Okay. All right. So I'm going to move through these quickly.
我会很快的再把这剩下的这个图让你们大家看一下。
Okay. I saw that interesting comment by Julia, by the way.
我看到了 Julie 你的这个留言。
Yeah. And that's basically what is, I believe the truth based upon the evidence that Marilyn Monroe did die of a drug overdose and was not killed by anyone, that she actually died. But and she was alone, you know. So, all right, there's Paul McCartney. Let's move through these kind of quickly.
我基本上相信
Here's the chart of Abraham Lincoln.
那个死于嗑药，然后他孤独的死去，而不是说被杀死的。那么我们再来看下面的，这是亚伯拉罕林肯的星图。
For those of you who are interested in astrological twins, Abraham Lincoln was born on the same month, day, and year as Charles Darwin.
那么你们如果对占星学中的孪生兄弟感兴趣的话呢，我想让你们知道，亚伯拉罕林肯和达尔文他们出生于同年同日同月同日。
Though very far apart in time and in different places, so their charts share similarities but are also very different.
那么，但是他们的出生时间很不一样，所以说他们出生图上有很多的相似之处，同时也有不同。
Let's take a look at the 9th house here. Here we have the sign Scorpio. And what do we associate the 9th house with? With one's belief system, one's philosophy?
那我们看看它的第9宫吧，它的第9宫是天蝎座，我们把第9宫跟什么联系在一起呢？是和信念体系、它的哲学思想联系在一起。
Here the North Node is conjunct the 9th house cusp and conjunct Uranus.
那么这里北焦点合向了9宫宫头，合向了天王星。
And so what does this tell us? This suggests that what is going to be important to this individual is to live a life that is true to their passion, which is Scorpio, passion, and true to their beliefs, 9th house.
那么这告诉我们什么呢？这告诉我们，这个人想要寻求一种生活，这种生活是就是说他们对他们的激情是保持真实的，而且对他们的信仰也是保持真实的，忠实于他们的信仰，忠实于他们的激情。
Essentially, you know, if you look at your keywords for the signs and houses and planets, it's very easy then for you to put together passion and belief. Scorpio, ninth house. Passion and belief.
很容易你们就把这两个词放在一起，天蝎座第9宫就是充满激情的信念。
Okay. If we are looking for other ninth house themes, we can see that there are also some Sagittarius influences here, Saturn especially in the ninth, and we have the sign Sag on the midheaven.
如果我们再进一步看9宫的话，我们还看到一些射手座的影响，海王星和土星都在射手座，特别是土星。那么10宫的宫头也是在射手座。
And of course, Pluto is the planet associated with Scorpio. And where is Pluto?
当然，冥王星是和天蝎座连在一起的。那么冥王星在哪里了呢？
Pluto is in Pisces, which was generational, and Pluto is conjunct Mercury.
那么冥王星在双鱼座，这是一个世代的行星。不过冥王星合向了水星。
Okay. Scorpio is passion, ninth house is belief. Pisces is about compassion. We have passion and compassion.
那么9宫是我们的信仰，而天蝎座是我们的激情，而双鱼座这堆行星呢是慈悲。所以说我们既有激情又有慈悲。
Okay. And so here we have someone, as when he first saw slaves, when he first saw people who were in slavery, it had a very intense effect upon him.
所以说这样一个人，他第一次看到奴隶的时候，那么这个奴隶给他带来了非常大的影响，很强烈的影响。
He had compassion, Pisces, and we see Jupiter, which is the planet associated with the ninth house theme, in Pisces also. See.
那么另外我们还看到了木星也和9宫联系在一起，木星也在这个1宫和水冥在一起。
Okay, so look at these connections. Scorpio connects with Pluto. Jupiter is the natural ruler of the ninth house. He felt compelled to speak out, to say something, because he said, "This is wrong. This is wrong."
所以说我们看到了这些联系，木星是9宫的，就是冥王星是天蝎座的守护星，而木星呢又是9宫的相关联的行星，那么所以说他觉得他必须得说出来，这是不对的。
Okay, so this chart is very clear that this person, this individual, would feel compelled to do something that he believed to be true when he saw something terrible happening. He confronted. Scorpio is about confrontation. He confronted people about this wrong.
那天蝎座是要去面对的，去正视的，去面对的。所以说呢，当他看到这些错误的东西的时候，他就去面对，而且说这是不对的。
Now, in the world of appearances, he looked very Aquarius. Got Aquarius rising, Sun in Aquarius.
在世界面前，他看起来是非常水瓶座的这种样子，因为他上升和太阳都在水瓶座。
He was very tall and unusual looking.
他个儿非常高，而且长相很不寻常。
Even as a young man, before he grew a beard and so forth, he was very tall, really stood out, very unusual looking. But he was friendly and detached, very Aquarius, friendly and detached.
即便是他年轻的时候呢，他当时也是非常高的个子，而且他当时没有留胡子的时候，也是长相非常的不是常人，就不一般。但是呢，他看上去非常的水瓶座，就是很友好，同时又是很超然，很超脱。
And you can see that in this case, here's the man most responsible for freeing the slaves in the United States, though it took a war to do it.
那么这是在美国历史上就是去解放了奴隶的那样一个人，他承担这个责任，而且他是用一场战争为代价来去做到这个的。
He did not want a war. A war was forced upon him.
他并不想发动这个战争，是别人把战争强加在他身上。
So there's the confrontation of Scorpio in the ninth house. Look at that. Amazing, amazing, amazing chart. Okay.
所以说你看，这是在9宫的这样一个天蝎座，就是他在信念上面的这种。
This man, if you read about his life, Abraham Lincoln went through a lot of losses in his life too. He had a very intense life, very, very intense. Lost a lot of people that he loved.
那么这个人如果去看他的自传的时候，你发现他也是过了非常激烈的一生，他失去了很多他所爱的人。
His mother died when he was 9 years old. His fiancée died of a fever in his arms when he was a young man.
他的母亲他9岁的时候去世了，他的未婚妻呢也是死于他的怀抱之中，死于。
And he lost two of his young sons. So
他还失去了2个幼子。
And throughout the Civil War, he wrote letters. I want you to think about this. Really open your minds. Think about this. He wrote letters. Mercury is writing a letter to widows who were grieving over the loss of their husbands in the war.
那么在那个内战的时候呢，他给很多那个失去了丈夫的寡妇写信。那么水星是那个写信哈，水冥合相，给那些失去了丈夫、失落中的寡妇写信。
Mercury conjunct Pluto in Pisces. Many of his letters have been saved as historical documents, some of them.
你想一想，这个水星和冥王星合相在双鱼座，他的很多信都被保存了下来，作为历史遗迹。
They are the most, I've read some of them, they are the most sensitive, compassionate, personal letters to grieving widows that have ever been written.
那么我读过他的一些信，这是我看到的，就是那种最敏感的，而且最慈悲的信，就是而且非常的个人化。
Because he understood loss.
因为他理解失去。
And he could write about it.
所以说他能够去写这样的信。
Okay, let's go on. Here's John Lennon, who was also a partner of Paul McCartney and the Beatles.
那么这是约翰列侬，他是 Paul McCartney 的这个伙伴，在披头士里面的伙伴。
I have to say the birth time on this is suspect. I have seen other charts.
我得说这个他的出生时间是有疑问的，我还见过其他的出生图。
I've seen other charts that show him born earlier with the moon in Capricorn. So.
我也看到其他的星图是他出生的 更早一点，月亮在摩羯座的星图。
So I'm going to skip that. Recently, Duke did some blogging and microblogging on the chart of Vivian Lee. I saw some of what he was doing, and Duke did really good on that. Some of you may have seen that, what Duke wrote. Vivian Lee's chart is such an indication of the kind of amazing and tragic life that she led.
那么就是说，这是费雯丽的星图。那么她的星图，非常说明了她的这个非常形象的说明的她这样一个悲剧性的一生，很伟大，但同时又悲剧性的一生。
You know, she we won't go into great detail about it now, but she suffered from what is called bipolar disorder.
她实际上是她患了双向障碍这样一个精神性疾病。
And which means her moods were unstable. Her moods fluctuated a lot. And she had this square between the Sun in Scorpio and Moon in Aquarius, with Uranus conjunct Moon.
她的情绪是极其不稳定的。你看到她月天合相，而且4分了太阳。
And the ascendant is involved too, since she's got the Sun right on the 7th, you know.
而且上升点也在这个相位里面。
Okay. Of course, she is famous for her role. She won 2 Academy Awards, and she played, of course, the famous Scarlett O'Hara in Gone with the Wind, and she was also in Streetcar Named Desire. She was, you know, quite the actress.
当然，她是一个伟大的女演员，她扮演了《飘》里面郝思嘉，还有在《欲望号街车》里面的那个。She had a lot of control battles with her husband, who was Laurence Olivier, the actor, English actor. 她和她的丈夫劳伦斯·奥利弗之间有非常多的这种控制权的斗争。
We won't go into that now, but this is an interesting chart. Bruce Lee.
非常有趣的一个星图。另外，你看布鲁斯。
I will spend in COAC. Actually, I'll spend more time on his chart at other points because his chart is so vivid for his life.
那么我们在高阶课里面在讲他的星图，因为他的星图也是形象的展示了他的一生，非常形象的展示了他的一生。
I'll give all of you some quick kind of clues, things to think about. He had South Node in Aries, okay, Mars in Scorpio, Mars exactly square Pluto.
那么我们迅速的看一下，它的南焦点在白羊座，火星在天蝎座，而且火星准确的4分了冥王星。
So we can see how he was expressing his South Node very much in his story, in his life.
我们可以看到他在他的人生故事中，如何表达了他的南焦点。
And of course, he was a teacher. Not only was he an actor, came from an acting family, but in the United States, he was the first one to teach martial arts from China, first one to teach Westerners about Chinese martial arts. First one.
而且在美国，他不仅仅是一个演员，他还是美国第一个教授武术的老师，中国老师，来自中国的老师。你看他的太阳射手座，然后上升射手座，从国外来的老师。
Okay. Martin Luther King Jr., who was born in the city that I'm from, Atlanta. I grew up knowing about Martin Luther King. I'm very familiar with his life.
那马丁路德金，他也是来自于我出生的城市亚特兰大，我非常熟悉马丁路德金。小时候，我了解他的一生。
It was our family's, my family's attorney that bailed him out of jail very early in his career.
我们家的律师曾经保释他出狱，就在他职业的早期。
And here we have, again, someone expressing compassion and nonviolence.
这是我们也看到了这个人，你看他的月经都在双鱼座，他是表现了他的慈悲还有非暴力。
Okay. So we have again, highly motivated, hardworking Capricorn with the sun on the midheaven. He was very hardworking. His ambition was for those that he had compassion for, trying to free his race from the segregation in the South, which disenfranchised them. It kept them from being able to have what everybody else had because they were separated from society.
那么你看他太阳是摩羯座，他是一个非常雄心勃勃的人，而且非常的努力。但是他的努力是为了那些他对之有充满那个同情心的他的人民，就那些被种族隔离的他的种族，他同种族的那些人。月亮和金星在双鱼座。
Okay. His eloquence, by the way, there's a Mercury in the 10th house, well known for his amazing speeches.
他是非常的能够演说的人，他的水星在10宫，他的演说非常有名。
Okay, here's the chart of JFK.
这是约翰肯尼迪的星图。
I won't dwell on it. He was, even though he was only president for 3 years, he was one of the best presidents of the 20th century, one of them, and of course was tragically assassinated, as we all know.
他是20世纪最好的美国总统之一，当然他最后也是被刺杀了，非常悲惨。
A lot of people look at this 8th house and they say, well, of course he was assassinated. Look at that 8th house.
那很多人看到这样的8宫都说，当然他被刺杀了，你看看他的第8宫吧。
And Mars is, of course, right on the 8th house cusp. However, this was not a guarantee that he would be assassinated.
那么火星正好是8宫宫头，当然这不是说如果是这样的话就一定要被刺杀。
But we do see an element of risk with the Mars square to Uranus and square to Mercury and square to Jupiter.
但是我们确实看见了这样的风险，因为天王星和火星、水星和木星都形成了4分相。
He was a very handsome, charming, good-looking president, good-looking man.
上升天秤，他是一个非常英俊的人，非常英俊的总统。
And over the years, a lot of books and so forth have come out about the many affairs that he had, both before he was president and during his brief presidency. He was, shall we say, promiscuous.
那么 当然这么多年来有很多的书披露了他的婚外情，在他成为总统之前和成为总统之后，他是有非常多的婚外情，他确实是一个滥交的人。
Felicia, what is the Chinese word for promiscuous?
滥交。
Okay, all right. We have, if we look at it, he's got Taurus on the 8th house cusp, which is sensuous, but Venus in Gemini likes variety. He's also got Sun in Gemini, clearly in the 8th. Venus is more the 9th. He's got Sun in Gemini, also in the 8th, and a real emphasis here. So he was very sensuous, curious, liked variety. There we go.
你看他有这么多金牛座的在8宫的行星，所以说他非常喜欢那个感官，而且他的太阳和金星，就是说都在双子座，那么他喜欢那种就是各种类型的女人。
Interestingly enough, most of the women who have written,
他对女人好奇。
most of the women who have written books about their affairs with him have said he was very kind and sweet and fun and wonderful to be with. No one has said anything bad about him.
最有趣的是那些出书说跟他有过婚外情的女人都说，他是非常非常的和善，非常的有趣，没人说他的坏话。
Here's the chart for Steve Jobs. This is, I believe, a rectified time, but it's pretty close to what was on. They found his birth certificate, you know, but this is, I think, a rectified time, but this is pretty close.
那么这是乔布斯的星图，那我认为这是一个被校正过的时间。不过呢，因为他们找到了他的出生证，所以应该跟出生时间是相当近的。
Here we have somebody who was a visionary, a Pisces. He's a visionary.
这个人是
Great
有
imagination.
看到他的太阳在双鱼座。
But his mind was a mind that was very good with being inventive and original when it came to technology. We have a strong 6th house, see, very strong 6th house, Virgo on the ascendant. So we've got a strong liking for gadgets. When he was a kid, electronic gadgets and then computers.
但是你看他的上升是处女座，守护星水星又在水瓶座，所以说他是一个非常聪明的，喜欢创造发明，喜欢那种电子新玩意儿的这样一个人。
Notice Gemini on the midheaven and Mercury in Aquarius, ruler of the 6th. You got a strong Mercury here, Virgo rising. Mercury is a very, very important planet here in terms of this for this Pisces.
另外，你看它的中天是双子座，中天的守护星水星，也是水星在那个水瓶座，所以是这个，而且水星和中天形成那个3分相，所以这个水星是非常非常重要的。
Okay. Here's a chart, and the reason we know her birth time is it was actually recorded at the little Catholic parish or church in the town she was born in. They recorded her birth time back in 1412. How about that?
这是圣女贞德的星图。我们之所以有她的出生时间，是因为那个教堂教会保留了她的出生记录。
All I want to say is this: just think about this, and you'll be amazed. She of course was famous for liberating France, or being a inspiration, Neptune, in liberating France from the English. But she did so because she heard voices. She has Mercury opposite Neptune. She heard voices.
那么我只想说这一点， 当然，圣女贞德她是以就是从英国人手中把法国拯救出来的一个女英雄，但是她之所以这样去做，是因为她听见了一个声音对她说这样的话。你看，这是她的水海对冲，她听到了这样一个声音。
She followed the voices that she heard.
她追随了她耳朵里面听到的那个声音。
And did some of the most amazing things that have ever been done in history.
她做了一件历史上很了不起的这样的事情。
She only lived 19 years. She was burned at the stake at 19.
她只活了19岁，她在19岁的时候就被处以了火刑，就被烧死了。
So she was a teenager, following her voices, and she followed her voices into hell.
所以说你看这样，这个他的水星在5宫，他水海对冲，然后呢，他的北焦点又在第8宫，所以说他是一个年轻人。这个年轻人听到了一个声音，然后他跟随他的声音走向了地狱。
I will tell you a quick story about her, and you can understand Mercury and Neptune being psychic energy. Does it mean everybody with a Mercury Neptune is psychic? No, but they have a potential to be psychic.
那我给大家一个小故事吧，这样你们知道这个水海对冲呢，有时候这个人他是可以是有灵媒的，有灵媒特质的，并不是每一个水海有相位的人都有灵媒特质啊，但是他们有这个潜能。
The reason Neptune is important because Pisces is the north node. So you can say that and then I'll quickly tell the story.
之所以海王星这么重要，因为海王星是它北焦点的守护星。
Okay. She went to find the King of France to tell him what he should do to regain his real throne and to regain the lost territory of France. France was pretty much controlled by England at the time.
当时法国已经差不多几乎被英国人都占领了，然后他就去寻找法国王子，想告诉法国王子他听到的声音，还有如何去能够从英国人手里面抢回法国的这个领地。
Her uncle took her to have this audience with the prince or future king, and he decided, he had heard about her, he decided he would play a trick on her.
那么他的叔叔呢，就带他去找这个法国王子，结果这个法国王子呢，就想耍个花招，就是他就想就想就是跟他玩个花招。
Rather than sit on his big throne or his chair with all these hundreds of people around him, he would go and mix and mingle with the hundreds of people and put somebody else up there.
他这个法国王子呢，他没有他没有坐在自己的宝座上，反而呢，他是自己去混在他周围的侍从的那个群里面，然后让另外一个人坐上他的宝座。
And so when Joan of Arc came into the court, the king's court, with her uncle, she looked all around the room like this, because she could see that whoever was sitting up there was not the prince. And she walked among the people and went right up to him, and told him who he was and what he needed to do.
那么当那个
witnessed by hundreds of people.
当圣女贞德走到他的那个宫廷的时候呢，当然他看到了那个坐在王位上的人，但是他走到宫廷里面，他就开始东张西望，他然后就看到了那个法国真正的王子， 然后就直接上王子走过去，然后告诉他就是说他就是王子，然后就告诉王子他应该怎么做。
Okay, here we go. This is Hugh Hefner, who was the founder of the Playboy Empire.
那么这是那个花花公子的创始人。
Are we surprised to see that he had an unusual relationship life?
看到这个天王星合相下降点，它有一个不寻常的两性关系，我们会惊讶吗？
There are a lot of things we could say about Hugh Hefner's chart, but let's consider one thing.
看他的星图有没有很多可说的，不过我们看其中的一样吧。
He began his career as a young man. You can see this Scorpio here on the 3rd. He began his career selling with a magazine that had pictures of naked women. It was a sex magazine. He was the first one to come up with the sexiest, right? Okay.
他的职业是这样开始的，他就是卖那种杂志，裸女的杂志。你看他的土星是职业，然后呢，土星落在天蝎座3宫，3宫是那个媒体，然后天蝎座裸女，他是开始是靠卖裸女杂志发家的。
He's got Capricorn South Node, so he was ambitious young man. He's got Gemini on the midheaven. So there's the 3rd house. There's the 3rd house is repeated up there with Saturn in the 3rd. So he's got Saturn in the 3rd, Gemini, and he was the manager, owner, chief editor of a magazine about sex.
他的南焦点是摩羯座，他是一个非常年轻时候就很野心勃勃的一个人。那在中天呢又是双子座，那么土星呢又落在3宫，所以说3宫的这个主题被重复了。他就是这个裸女，这个他卖裸女这个花花公子杂志的创始人、管理者，同时也是他的主编。
He also has Pluto in the 10th, just to add to it.
而且他女王星也在10宫。
Mm-hmm. And get this, you'll love this if you don't know this. His first publication of Playboy magazine, first one, guess who his centerfold was?
Guess who what?
His centerfold. It means the centerfold means the photograph of the naked woman in the middle of the magazine.
你们猜一猜他的第一本花花公子杂志的那个内页那个中页是谁的照片？
It was Marilyn Monroe.
是玛丽莲梦露的照片。
Norma Jean. She made him famous.
玛丽莲梦露让这个Hughes Hefner
and they were part of the same nodal family, as we know, North Node Cancer, South Node.
大家也知道他们两个是同一个焦点家族的人。
Okay. All right. Here's somebody who has a few dollars to spend. Just a few. I'm joking. It's Bill Gates. I said, here's somebody who has a few dollars to spend.
这是比尔盖茨的星座，这个人只有几分钱可以花。他在开玩笑。
I'm a Scorpio with Venus in Scorpio. My Pluto is conjunct Jupiter in the 2nd house.
他说我是个天蝎座，金星也在天蝎座，而且那个木星和冥王星合相在了2宫。
I'm going to say something that sounds really ridiculous.
我要说一点听上去非常那个荒唐的话。
I want freedom in this life, but in order to have freedom, I need a lot of money.
那么那个因为他的北焦点在射手座5宫，说我在这辈子我就想获得自由，但是为了获得自由，我需要很多的钱。这射手座的守护星木星又在2宫合相冥王星。
What has Microsoft been both famous and infamous for?
微软它最著名，同时又最臭名昭著的是什么呢？
They've been infamous for their attempt to control and monopolize Got it?
他们最臭名昭著的是，他们想控制还有垄断整个这个软件操作平台，电脑操作平台。
Yes, to control and monopolize. This is Scorpio.
就是想要去控制和垄断，这是天蝎座。
Okay, quickly. Here's Queen Elizabeth I, not the one that's alive today. She's the second. This was a real queen.
这是伊丽莎白一世，不是现在活着的伊丽莎白，而是伊丽莎白一世，真的这个女王。
She proved her courage in amazing adversity. Leo in the 8th.
那么她证明了她在非常不利的状态下证明了她的勇气。狮子座在第8宫。
And her nickname was the Virgin Queen.
而且你看她的太阳在处女座9宫，她的别名是处女女皇，不太对啊，她的别名是
The Virgin Queen.
贞洁女王。
Does that translate? That's her name. That was her name amongst the
童贞女王，对，童贞女王。
Virgin Queen. That's Virgo, very clearly. I've always thought that was amazing.
我觉得这真是太有趣了。
What a life. Okay.
怎样的一生啊！
Here's Queen Elizabeth II, who's alive today. She is a queen. She's got moon in Leo. I think every moon in Leo feels like a queen.
那么她也是，这是伊丽莎白2世，她也是个女王。那她的月亮在狮子座，每一个月亮在狮子座的都觉得自己是女王。
But in her case, she has always felt a tremendous responsibility, obligation. She has been very traditional, very Capricorn. Saturn.
在她这个案例里面呢，她是一个非常传统这样一个人。你看她的上升是摩羯座，而且她是特别感觉到非常大的责任的这样一个人，也非常尽责的一个人。她的上升南焦点在摩羯座，土星也在轴点。
Someone who feels tremendous pressure of responsibility, public responsibility, all of the time.
这个人时时刻刻都感觉到非常大的责任压力，就在公众生活中的责任和压力。
Albert Einstein, another Pisces, like Steve Jobs.
爱因斯坦另外一个双鱼座的人，也像乔布斯一样。
He had an instinctive, that's the moon, grasp of concepts. Sagittarius. Say that. Instinctive grasp of concepts.
你看他的月亮在射手座，他有一个本能的掌握概念的这样的能力。
Okay. And a very disciplined mind.
同时他的大脑又是训练有素的，你看他的水土四合相。
Okay. However, he liked to think about what he wanted to think about.
但是呢，他想去思考他想思考的东西。
Mm-hmm. And when he worked at a job, just a job at the patent office, instead of working on what he was supposed to work on at the patent office, he worked on what he wanted to work on.
当他在专利局的时候，他没有，就是说他没有，就是有时候干专利局交给他的活儿，他去想自己想干的。
And here we do notice, look at some connections, just for the heck of it. Aquarius North Node, Uranus in the third. Uranus makes a quincunx to Mercury. And
你
so
看它的北焦点是水瓶座，那么北焦点守护星天王星和水星形成了梅花相位。
And so new ways of thinking that could transform the way the world thinks.
所以说，北焦点水瓶座8宫，这个还有这些刚才这些配置，新的思考方式转化了世界。
By the way, Mercury and Saturn are very important indicators for scientists. Very important.
顺便说一下，水土的相位对于科学家是非常重要的一个相位。
Okay. There's much more to his chart than we're talking about. Here's the greatest inventor of all time, Thomas Edison.
这是有史以来最伟大的发明家爱迪生，托马斯·爱迪生。
Look at this loaded third house, for God's sakes.
你看看这个第3宫吧。
Look at this. This man spent his whole life from his teenage times inventing things.
这个人他一辈子从他的青少年时期开始搞发明创造。
And he is credited with putting together one of the first research teams for inventions, research teams.
而且呢，
he's got Scorpio rising, research, strong third house.
而且他是第一个建立了研究团队的这样一个人。你看他的那个上升天蝎座，天蝎也是跟研究相关的，然后他建立了一个研究团队，发明创造的研究团队。
Again,
3宫水瓶座。
He was very effective with using teamwork in the development and groups and teamwork in the development of his ideas, his inventions.
他非常善于运用团队来，就是说对他的这些主意进行发明创造。
And he had an instinctive grasp of concepts.
而且他也是对于这种概念有一个本能的这样一个抓取，本能的
Here's the chart of Bill Clinton.
他的月亮也在射手座。
Another president with Libra rising who was good looking, who in this case had, of course, terrible scandals despite the fact he was a really good president. He had some scandals that we all know about.
这是另外一个上升天秤座的英俊的总统，他是一个非常好的总统，但是不幸的是他有一些丑闻，我们也都知道他的这个丑闻，你看那个火海合相。
When Bill Clinton was a teenager in high school, he met President Kennedy. There's a photo of him shaking hands with him. It's very interesting.
比尔·克林顿在高中的时候，他遇到了肯尼迪总统，有一张照片，就是他和肯尼迪总统握手的照片。
Two handsome guys shaking hands.
两个英俊的男人握了手。
Here's one of the most successful and famous and amazing psychics of the 20th century, Edgar Cayce. Should read about his life. Fascinating.
这是20世纪最伟大的灵媒 埃兹加·凯西，你们应该读一读他的传记。
He had a little bit of emphasis in Pisces, just a little.
他在双鱼座有一点点行星。
Okay. All right. And here, of course, is the greatest fighter of all time, Muhammad Ali, the greatest boxer.
当然，这是最伟大的拳击手穆罕默德·阿里。
He was known for also being quite the show-off, quite the showman, very dramatic, Leo rising.
上升狮子座，他是一个他喜欢炫耀，喜欢秀，也是非常出名的。
But he was also hard-working Capricorn.
但同时，他也是一个非常努力的摩羯座。
He was the master of his craft. He perfected his craft. He has a six-house sun in Capricorn.
他的太阳
North node in Virgo.
他的北交是处女座，而他的太阳在6宫摩羯座，所以说，他是他所掌握的这个技艺的大师。
Okay, that's it. Those are some of the charts you can read about these individuals, study their lives, and look at the houses, look at the planets associated with them, and you can learn so much.
所以说，这些名人大家可以好好看，去研究他们的星图，看他们的传记，从这里你们可以学到非常多的东西。
And I want you to do that. I want you, even when this course is over and you're getting ready to take our certification, our certified course, when you're getting ready to take COAC, between now and then, I want you to study these charts. I want you to go online and read about these people.
那么从现在到我们的高阶课呢，我希望大家去到网上去研究这些人，就是给大家的这些名人，研究他们的生平，对照他们的星图。
And I want you to argue this out in your mind. What does this mean? And think logically. Compare it to the real life of this person.
我希望你们把这些星图对照他们的真实的人生，你们在脑海里要自己去想，自己去争辩，这到底是什么意思？这个到底是什么意思？在哪里反映出来的
Okay. All right. All right. Now we're going to cover some points that we will also go over again in our next module.
那么
And I
现在
have a surprise for you. I have a surprise for you.
那么现在呢，我们要讲一些案例了。那么我们到下一个模块也要讲的案例，这个可能是
Some of you have wanted to know, who is the No-Door girl? Who is she?
有人想
Who
知
is
道
the No-Door girl?
做到女孩是谁？
Wow, look at this. We have her, she's given us her chart.
你看看这个吧，他把他的星图给我们了。
Look at that. She's a Virgo.
他是
She
个
was
处女
born in
座，
Beijing.
他生在北京。
You know, I was really amazed that she would give us her chart.
他把他的星图给我们，给我们，我觉得太棒了。
Okay. So before we look at her chart further, what are her questions? What does she want to know?
在我们进一步看他星图之前，他提了什么问题呢？他想知道什么呢？
She says, I want to know how to read a chart vocationally.
他希望读一张星图，关于职业方面。
One of the main areas, aside from relationships, will be questions from your clients about their career. Normal questions.
除了关系之外，大家我们的客户常见的一个问题就是职业问题。
Okay, now she, being the No-Door girl and very smart,
她是我们的弱道女孩，
she's asking some questions about her chart here.
她问了她星图的一些问题。
she feels that her chart is a little complex in terms of career indicators.
他觉得他的星图就从职业的这些象征而言是很复杂。
And she says this. She says, my midheaven is in Scorpio, closely quincunx Jupiter, sextile my Mercury in Virgo in the 8th house, and in an out-of-sun trine with my north node in Aries. Plus, my midheaven is widely squared my moon. I am not sure how to interpret all of this.
他说我的中天落在天蝎座，与木星成精准的梅花相位，并6分在第8宫的处女座水星，还与我的北焦点白羊座北焦点成星座外的3分相。此外，我的中天与月亮也成为容许较多的4分相，较大的4分相。我不太确定该如何解读这些相位。
Okay, here's what she says. I went to college early at 16 as a computer science major, and then switched to sociology, and then psychology, where I finally got my degree. I was doing an internship, and this means for psychology, when she discovered astrology about 2 years ago. Now she wants to be a professional astrologer. And she wants to know, does her chart support this?
那他说呢，我16岁进入大学，读的是计算机科学专业，后来转入了社会学专业，接着又转到了心理学专业，最后获得了心理学学位。2年前在做心理实习医生的时候，偶然发现了占星学，现在想当一个占星师。从占星的角度，怎么样解释这些经历呢？
Okay. Now we can tell she's a pretty good student of astrology here.
我们可以知道她是一个很好的占星学生。
So let's look at her chart and think about career.
我们看看她的星图，想想她的。
When you are analyzing career questions before your client arrives, what are you looking at?
如果你在你的客户来见你之前，在分析这个一个关于职业的问题，你会看什么呢？
First off, you always want to look at the lunar nodes because they're the key to fulfillment, and career certainly involves the lunar nodes in some way. Always.
首先，当然你应该去看南北焦点，你总是要看南北焦点，南北焦点总会和职业以某种方式发生联系。
You look for themes that involve both the sign and the house of the north node, and the sign and the house of the south node.
你要看北焦点的宫位和星座的主题，在这个星图上还有什么样的其他的主题和这个主题是一致的。当然，你也要看南焦点的宫位和星座的主题，还有和这个星图上和南焦点相关的主题。
And then you look at other things in terms of career. You look also at the midheaven. You look at the 6th house. And by the midheaven, by the way, I also mean the 10th, of course. And you look at the 2nd house.
当然，除此之外，你要看一看中天和10宫，你要看一看第6宫，你要看一看第2宫。
That's the 10th, the 6th, and the 2nd.
就第10宫、第2宫、第6宫。
All three of these are key indicators that will describe the primary associations and issues of career.
那这3者会描述关于职业的最重要的问题，它的职业的性质和问题。
So let's look at that. We see that she has Scorpio very late, but she says her birth time is accurate. She's got Scorpio on the midheaven. And Pluto in the 9th.
我们看到她的中天守护星座是天蝎座，中天的星座天蝎座，而冥王星在第9宫。
Number one, this suggests that she needs to be in a career that she believes in.
首先，这意味着他需要在一个他所相信的这个职业中去工作，他需要在这样一个职业。
Maybe a career that where she's passionate, Pluto, about what she believes in.
也许他对于他所相信的东西要非常的有激情，非常有激情的这样一个职业。
In addition, we can see that she also has a very strong or prominent 8th house.
另外，我们可以看到，她有一个很强的第八宫。
In the 8th house, she has the South Node, Mercury, Venus, and the Sun all conjunct that 8th house, in that 8th house area, and Mars a little bit.
那么我们看到第八宫南交点合向了水星，还有南交点还有金星、太阳，甚至火星也有点被拉进来了。
Now, if we think about all this, we think, okay, she needs to be in something that she believes in intensely. Number one, she needs that.
所以我们要想一想，首先她要去做一个她非常有激情，而且她所相信的这样一个职业。
She looks like she has a really good mind for research, for digging into things. She's got all this Virgo in the 8th house.
她有这么多处女座的行星在第八宫，所以说呢，她非常善于去挖掘一个事情。
The 8th house is, of course, about other people's stuff.
第八宫和其他人的东西相关。
There are 2 houses that are involved directly with one-on-one with other people. That's the 7th and the 8th. We know those are relationship houses.
和他人一对一的关系有2个宫位，一个是7宫，一个是8宫。
We see that she has the South Node in Libra and Venus in Virgo in the 8th.
我们看到她的南交点在天秤座，而南交点守护星金星在第八宫处女座。
And so her eventual interest in psychology makes some sense in that she likes to think about or figure out or analyze other people and why they are the way they are.
所以说，她最终对心理学感兴趣是符合逻辑的。她喜欢去分析他人，就他人的心理，他人到底想的是什么。处女座在第八宫的一个展现。
Now remember, career can be a fairly complicated thing. She started off as a computer science major.
要知道，那个职业其实是一个非常复杂的事情。这个孩子开始，这个女孩开始的时候呢，她是计算机专业。
She's probably pretty good with computers. She's good at analyzing things, doing some research, taking things apart. She's got a good instinct, moon in Aquarius, for technology, for computer science. This makes a little bit of sense. You know, think of Steve Jobs' chart. He's a Virgo rising with Mercury in Aquarius. Here we have Virgo in Aquarius. It's a good science thing.
他有水星在不是月亮在水瓶座，他有这个一个很好的直觉，对于科学有很好的直觉。那么想想那个，而且他有这么处女座的行星在第八宫，想想那个乔布斯的星图也是处女座，水星在水瓶座，那么这有相似的主题。
So, but she found that she was really not passionate about computer science, and she switched to sociology.
但是他发现他对计算机科学其实并没有激情，所以说他转变到了社会学。
Her interest in sociology came from the fact that she felt a need to make the world to contribute, a need to contribute somehow to society.
他对社会学的这个热情来自于他觉得他需要去对社会进行去贡献给社会一些东西。
Notice that the moon is the associate body for the sixth house. Here's a need to nurture, a need to contribute and nurture. To nurture society is to contribute.
六宫，月亮是六宫的公主星，所以说呢，他有一种需要，他想去滋养、去贡献这个社会，给这个社会滋养和贡献。
Notice that the moon is also square the midheaven, so we have a contact with the midheaven.
而且你看这个月亮，它四分了中间，所以说月亮和中天是有一个联系的。
Okay, so here's Cancer on the 6th, the moon, also contact with the midheaven.
你看六宫的宫头是巨蟹座，而巨蟹座的守护月亮又和中天有连接。
I've seen a lot of people that go into social work or sociology with Aquarius, sometimes mixed with Pisces, but Aquarius seems to show up pretty strongly there.
我看到
Social
很
work,
多
sociology.
在社会学还有那个社工领域工作的人，他们都很有强烈的水瓶座的特征。有时候这个水瓶座和双鱼座联系的是合在一起的。
However, she then switched from sociology to psychology, and that's where she got her degree.
但是他还是最后从社会学转向了心理学，他也是在心理学上获得了学位。
Aquarius is a sign associated with how groups of people behave. It's about bodies of people, how groups of people behave. This is sociology.
那么水瓶座呢，是和一群人的这样的他的行为模式是相关的。那么这就是社会学。
But we can see from looking at her chart that she's very interested in how individuals behave as well, in addition to groups.
但是我们从他的星图上很清晰的看见，除了那个团体之外，他其实对于个人的这样一个心理是非常非常感兴趣的。个人的
She likes to analyze.
他喜欢分析。
She likes to analyze other people's stuff. Virgo in the 8th.
因为水星，你看在第8宫，水星处女座第8宫，他喜欢去分析其他人的问题，其他人的东西。
Okay. Let me give you another clue about psychology too.
我给大家一个关于心理学的一个线索。
There are a lot of different combinations for people who are attracted to psychology.
对于被吸引到心理学来的人呢，他们的星图有各种各样的模式。
It's not just one thing or two things. It's a combination of things.
不是只有一点或者两点，是好几点的这样一个组合。
But let me mention something to you that is very interesting.
但是我跟大家提一下一个非常有趣的事儿吧。
Sigmund Freud, Carl Jung, Fritz Perls all had the South Node in Libra. Great psychologists.
弗洛伊德、荣格，还有Peirce， 他们 what Peirce？
Pearls, Fritz Perls.
Fritz Perls， 这是一个那个行为学家。 不是完形疗法的治疗师，创始人，他们都是北焦点在天秤座。
They were all pioneer psychologists.
而他们也都是那种先锋的心理学家。
And guess who else has the South Node in Libra?
猜猜还有谁北焦点在天秤座？
He had a birthday yesterday.
他昨天生日。
This was Glenn Perry.
这是 Glenn Perry， 我们的心理占星学的老师。
Yes. And Glenn Perry is a pioneer also in psychology with his astropsychology.
那么他的astro 占星心理学，他也是一个先锋的人物。
So I like to tell Glenn Perry, hey, you're in good company. Sigmund Freud, Carl Jung, Fritz Perls, Glenn Perry.
所以说，我很喜欢跟 Glenn Perry 这么说，他说你可是有好伙伴啊！你看看，弗洛伊德、荣格，还有Perls，这都是你的伙伴，你们都是同一个焦点家族的。
And guess who joins that company with them? The No-Door Girl.
你们猜谁加入了他们这样一个家族？就是我们的弱道女孩。
Okay. All right. Now, she switched from psychology to astrology.
那么她又从心理学又转向了占星学。
Why?
为什么呢？
Well, first off, a lot of astrologers were psychology majors or went on and got degrees in psychology. This is the two most common degrees for modern astrologers in the United States and in England are degrees in psychology and sociology, these two areas.
那么另外呢，其实在美国和英国，很多的占星师都是心理分析师，他们最常见的占星师所拿的学位就是心理学的学位和社会学的学位。
Okay. Now, in addition, the sign Aquarius, which likes to look at things that are original or different or unconventional, there's the key phrase, unconventional. You see the sign Aquarius a lot with people who are attracted to astrology.
那么另外，你看上升和月亮都在水瓶座，那么这是一个不寻常的，他喜欢那个非常规的、不寻常的、创新的这样的东西。你在占星圈里面可以看到很多的有水瓶座特质的人。
She also has a lot of aspects with Uranus. Notice that she has a square between Mercury and Uranus and Venus and Uranus, but particularly Mercury.
另外，天王星有好几个相位，它的水星和金星都和天王星有相位，特别是水星。
With Venus square Uranus, she likes something that is different or unusual.
那么金星四分天王星，他喜欢那些与众不同的东西。
And her mind, Mercury, she likes to think about subjects that are different, original, unusual, unconventional.
而且他的水星这是他思考，他喜欢去思考那个不同寻常的、有新意的东西。
So in many ways, astrology offers the no-door girl an opportunity to express so much of who she is.
所以说，从某种程度上说，占星学使得这个弱道女孩能够去表达她所是的那个样子。
Astrology is astrologic.
而且占星学是新的逻辑。
it provides a logical system through which she can understand others.
那么它提供了一个逻辑的系统，通过这个系统，你可以去了解他人。
And it allows her to do something that she is passionate about, something she believes in.
而且这也会让他去做一些他很有激情的，而且他相信的这样一些事情。
It gives her a sense of making a contribution, Aquarius.
这会让他感觉到他在做贡献，这个水瓶座。
And of liberating people, which is Aquarius and Uranus, liberating people with the information she provides.
而且用他所提供这些信息解放了其他人。
Or even transforming people, which is Scorpio, Pluto, the 8th house, transforming others with her analysis.
而且他用他的分析转化了他人，这也是处女座八宫。
Again, the contact between her midheaven and Jupiter, both of them being at 29, this quincunx between them right here, involves belief system and philosophy. She'll probably become a teacher of astrology as well.
另外，你看他的木星准确的和中天形成梅花相位，所以说他的职业和他所信仰的东西是相关的，而且木星也是教授，所以说他可能最后会成为一个占星学的老师。
I think astrology has also captured her imagination, which is important. I think astrology has inspired the No-Door girl.
我想这个占星学一定是抓住了这个落道女孩的想象力，它确实是启发了她。
And we see that Neptune is trine Mars.
我们看到这个海王星是3分火星。
So she is taking action, Aries, North Node, Mars, for something that inspires her. She wants to know, can I make money?
所以说
Can I make money, second house, with something that inspires me?
你看他这个是2宫是宫头是双鱼座，那么他是说我能赚到钱吗？因为用那些启发我灵感的东西赚到钱。
Pisces is also about healing.
那么双鱼
And
座
therefore, the Pisces in the second house is being in a healing profession.
那么双鱼座也是喜欢疗愈，喜欢在一个疗愈性的职业。
So here, nurturing contribution, something I'm passionate about, healing people,
你看看
nurturing contribution.
6宫巨蟹座就是那种滋养他人的，那么10宫天蝎座是那他很有激情的，去转化他人的，那么2宫双鱼座是那些疗愈性的。
Okay. And so the No-Door girl's chart is that I think, therefore, to answer her question, I would say her chart does support her interest in astrology and her pursuing a career in astrology. Yes.
那么我会说，他的星图确实展现了他对占星的兴趣，还有他会就是最终将自己的职业，将占星作为自己的职业，去追求占星作为职业。
She has a good chart for a therapist, particularly an analyst as well.
他有一个非常好的心理分析师的星图。
And her degree in psychology, her study of psychology will help her as an astrologer for sure.
他在心理学上面的这样一个学习，毫无疑问可以帮助他作为一个占星师。
Okay, let's review these career priorities that we've looked at today.
让我们来复习一下我们今天所提到的这些职业的优先顺序吧。
First thing, always, first thing, you are my students, and my students always look at this first. Sign and house positions of the lunar nodes.
那么第一点永远要看的是月亮焦点的星座和宫位。你们是我的学生，我的学生永远第一点要看这个。
Notice I say sign and house. You've got to look at both to look for themes. You're looking for themes.
你看到我说的是星座和宫位，你要两者都看，你要去寻找那些主题。
Obviously, you look for the associate planet
当然你要去
by
找关
sign
联
and then
与星座和宫位相
and
关联
also
的
by house.
嗯
Both.
两者都要看。
And then you look at aspects to the nodes.
然后你看看，月亮焦点的相位。
Next, look at the midheaven.
然后看看中天，
Planets in the 10th house.
10宫的行星，
Sign on the MC.
中天的星
And
座
the associate planet
与中
of
天
the
相关的
midheaven.
行星，
Its house, how it is aspected, all those things.
与中天相关的行星所在的宫位和还有相位。
Aspects to the midheaven, also important.
那么与中天形成的相位也很重要。
Then we look, of course, at the 6th house.
然后当然我们要看看第6宫，
Planets in the 6th house.
在6宫的行星，
The sign on the 6th house cusp.
6宫宫头星座，
The associate planet of the 6th house and how it is aspected.
与6宫相关联的行星及其所形成的相位。
Then we look at the 2nd house.
然后我们看第2宫，
Planets in the 2nd house.
都在第2宫的行星，
The sign on the 2nd house cusp.
第2宫的宫头星座，
And the associate planet of the 2nd house and how it is aspected.
与第2宫相关联的行星及其形成的相位。
Okay. Now, we've already analyzed Nodor Girl's chart based upon these principles today.
我们今天根据这样的原则，刚才分析了落到女孩的她的星图。
Now, I know this looks complicated. I understand.
我知道这看起来很复杂，我理解这一点。
But if I tell you, if you follow this outline and you think logically and you make a list, you could come up with maybe 10, 12 careers that somebody could pursue.
如果是你们看一下这个提纲，然后呢再看一下星图，根据这个提纲就这样子把这一点点都列下来，我想你可能会看到这个人可能从事的10多种职业。
But don't worry about that. Don't get upset about that.
但是不要因此而沮丧，不要担心。
What you want to do is look for the common needs. What are the strongest needs this person has that could be fulfilled by their career?
那么实际上你看到是这个共同的需求这些元素共同的需求，看看这个职业能够怎么样去满足这个他们的共同的需求。
And if you keep asking that question, you will come up with the basic things that should be there for career fulfillment.
如果你不断的问问题的话，你就会找到就是职业的这些最基本的这样的信息。什么能够让有成就感？
In the in the modern world, we have more choices with career than people had a long time ago.
在现代世界，我们对职业比过去的人有了更多的选择。
In ancient times, even in older times or even classical times, if you were born on a farm, you were going to be a farmer and that was it.
那么在古代，如果你是出身于农家，那么你就一辈子只能做个农夫，也就是这样了。
If your family was a family that wrote calligraphy, you were going to be a calligrapher. This is what you were going to do.
如果你的家里人是书法家，那你长大了也不过也就是成为书法家，这就是你所做的。
The world offers us many more, or society and the world, we have more opportunities now.
那么现在世界还有现在社会给我们提供了更多的机会。
And the charts give us a lot of clues, provide a lot of information to help guide us with our choices.
那么这个星图给了我们很多的线索，去引导我们，就是走到这个我们去选择我们的职业，给了我们的线索来引导我们。
I see somebody offering me coffee. Do I look tired? Or do they need it as a student?
They need coffee.
They need it, yes. Drink some more. Just drink some decaf. It's getting late over there for you. You don't want to stay up all night. Unless you want to stay up all night and talk to the no-door girl.
老师说，你们要喝咖啡的话，也不要喝有咖啡因的咖啡，因为现在已经很晚了。
She will not let me give out her. She will not let me give out her email or her WeChat.
不过若到女孩，除非你想跟若到女孩整晚聊天，不过若到女孩说不能把她的 email 还有她的微信给出来。
She wants to remain anonymous, and she wants to control whom she talks to.
她希望保持匿名，而且能够去控制她跟谁聊天。
Okay, she's very interesting, isn't she? Okay.
她很有趣。
All right. So we're in the last several minutes of our class today. We started at 8:02. I can go a little over. Does anyone have a question specific to career that would help all the students to ask this question?
Okay. One question is, what's the difference of a planet have a softer aspect with the midheaven from hard aspects from the midheaven? What's the difference?
Great question. Who asked that question?
I don't know. I just did.
Well, whoever asked the question, it's a great question. Two things. Number one, both the soft aspect and the hard aspect are important. Both are important.
刚才有位同学问，一个行星跟中天形成柔和相位，还有或者形成那个硬相位有什么不同呢？老师说，不论是柔和相位还是硬相位，这个相位如果是和中天形成这样的相位，都是重要的。
Because if the birth time is accurate,
因为
this is what we call contact with the midheaven. Contact.
因为如果这个人的出生时间是准确的话呢，这就是叫做我们称之为和中天的联系，形成了联系。
And both of them will play out.
那么两者都会展现出来的，在职业中。
However, the aspects we will feel the most pressure from will be the squares, the hard aspects.
当然，我们感觉到压力最大的是这个四分相，是硬相位。
Or even the opposition, you know.
甚至是那个对分相。
For example, let's just say this is the midheaven. Somebody could be born with Neptune
Vivian Leigh. She has Neptune
Conjunct.
opposite.
The midheaven. This is what I'm picturing. So I don't know how I got that. I must be psychic. Do you think I'm psychic?
Okay, yeah. 比如说那个有个人他出生的星图上海王星在下中天，就是对冲了中天。那么
And this means that Neptune will be a factor in their career.
这说明海王星在他们职业上也是一个因素。
It suggests that they might go into a field that could be a healing field, that is a possibility.
这说明呢，他们可能去一个比方说疗愈性的职业中，这是一个可能性。
I know nurses and doctors and people in various healing or therapeutic roles who will have Neptune either opposite the midheaven or square the midheaven or trine the midheaven, but particularly the opposition and square.
我看过那个，就是说护士还有医生他们的星图，很多人就有海王星对分或者是4分，有时候甚至3分中天，就是不过那个对分还有4分的居多。
Remember, there are 2 career areas for Neptune.
要记得
One
对海王
is
星来说有2个职业选择，职业领域。
One area is the world of inspiration, such as in film, music, the arts. That's one Neptune category.
一个是那个创意领域，比方说艺术啊、电影啊、摄影啊，这是一个海王星的领域。
And the other category is, of course, an expression of compassion in the healing fields.
另外一个就是在疗愈领域表达出他的同情心的，这是一个领域。
Okay.
刚才我说这个老师举这个海王星的例子，费雯丽的星图就是这样的，海王星对冲中天。
All right. What other questions do we have? We're at 10:05 now.
Okay, I think it's okay. What
Okay.
about Uranus?
You know-
Someone, if I have Uranus opposite midheaven, does that mean he will very unstable career?
Well, why don't you ask yourself that? Have you had an unstable career? Have you had an unusual career?
You have a lot of changes in the career. 那么老师说，
Yeah,
如果你自己这样一个问题呢，你是在职业中有很多的变动吗？
But let me just answer it. Oh my goodness. Oh my God. Ah, you may become an astrologer. Ah.
不过我给你回答一个问题了，老天爷呀，你可能会变成占星师的。
You've got contact between Uranus and the midheaven. Help you. Oh, help you.
你天王星和中天有这样的接触了，所以说，我爱你，我可能要帮助你。
Now you have to have more than that. This is just one indicator.
当然了，你必须要有更多的这样的星盘配置啊，这是其中的一个星盘配置里面的一项。
Astrology does offer you variety. It offers you also a chance to meet a lot of unusual or different people, which is very stimulating.
占星学会让你，如果成为占星师的话，你会去见到非常多的各种各样不同的人，这也是天王星，这是很刺激的。
But to be an astrologer, you have got to really be fascinated, interested in people, and want to make a contribution. You've got to be really interested in people.
不过要成为占星师的话，你必须对人非常感兴趣，而且想要去做出贡献。
You have to really want to help other people.
你必须想要去帮助他人。
I mean, there are people to where astrology is their hobby, and maybe they even do a little research in astrology and they do some writing in astrology. It's their hobby.
那么有些人呢是把占星学作为他们的一个嗜好，他们甚至可能在占星学领域还做一些研究。
They find astrology to be intellectually fascinating.
他们觉得占星学在智力上面来说是非常吸引他们的。
But they don't really want to help people. They don't really like people.
但是他们不太喜欢人，他们也不太喜欢去帮助人。
So they're not going to make a living as an astrologer because an astrologer works with people every day trying to help them. So you've got to really like people. You've got to really be interested in people to be an astrologer or to be a psychologist.
但是呢，如果是你对人不感兴趣的话呢，你也就成为不了占星师了，因为占星师每天都得跟人打交道，或者是你想去帮助他人，
Okay.
这个占星师和心理咨询师都是要做这样的事情。
Great. All right. Now we will, in our next course, we will go over these career priorities again, and then we will look at relationship priorities.
那么我们下节课呢，我们看一看，我们会复习一下这节课所讲的，然后我们看一看在亲密关系领域哪些是关键的，这些优先次序是什么。
Great. This is great. You're getting material in this course. This is intermediate material, but this is kind of advanced intermediate. Understand this. It's sort of advanced intermediate.
那么这是一个比较进阶的中阶课。
Okay. So if it's a little difficult at first, don't be surprised. You're going to have to work with this.
所以说如果刚开始的时候有点困难的话，你们不要气馁，你们必须不断的去练习。
So we'll review these points, and you'll have a lot of fun working with this. It'll drive you crazy.
所以说我们会再去练习这个提纲，它会把你们
Until you get good at something, until you get good at something, it drives you crazy.
直到你们擅长，那么占星学都会把你们逼得发疯。
When an intern, which is somebody who wants to become a doctor, when an intern is first looking at X-rays, how to read an X-ray up on the screen, they look at it and they cannot see what the doctor is talking about.
那么当你的实习医生去看一个 X 光片的时候，他看就是说他可能看一个那个 X 光片，他不知道那个 X 光片有什么问题，他也不知道说什么。
The older doctor is pointing at the X-ray and pointing out this and pointing out that, and the intern is looking and going, okay, I sort of see what you're talking about. I think I see it.
然后一个最有经验的这个医生呢，就会拿着这个幻灯片，就给那个年轻的实习医生指出来，你看看这儿，你看看那儿。然后这个实习医生呢就说，好像我看到了，
But the more the intern looks, the more they study the X-ray, the more they do it, they begin to see what the doctor is talking about. They begin to recognize in that X-ray how to read the X-ray.
那么，但是这个实习医生他看的越多呢，他就会越来越能够认出那个幻灯片，不是那个X 光片里面这个出问题的那个 X 光片的部分，他们就会越来越擅长。
And reading a chart is the same way.
那么我们阅读星图、解读星图也是同理。
The more you look at it, the more you will get it. Okay?
你看的越多
So study.
你看的越多，你就会学到的越多。所以说大家要去练习。
Okay, great. All right. So that's it for now. 再见. I'll see you in China next week. I'll see you soon. I'll see you very soon.
今天就到这里，我到中国来，再见，很快就会
No,
见到的。
I'm heading down to Shenzhen first. I go to Beijing, then to Shenzhen, then back to Beijing.
Okay. Then to Chengdu.
All right. Felicia, and then Chengdu. Yes, and many other places. Felicia, thank you so much today. You were wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
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 Bye. Bye.
Bye. Bye.